Ladies and gentlemen, to truly understand the future of trade, we must hear from those who have shaped its global architecture. We are privileged to welcome a leader whose name commands respect across borders. The former Secretary General of World Customs Organization, a global voice for customs cooperation, innovation, and facilitation. Please have a big round of applause to welcome Dr. Kunio Mikuriya.
Thank you very much. It is a great honor to address to you and contribute from customs perspective to global logistic confluence. Now, first, very quickly about World Customs Organization. Well, it is an intergovernmental organization, and now it was established in 1952 in Brussels, Belgium. It is, to support GATT, that is a precursor to WTO for the global trade, and from customs perspective to contribute to the expansion of global trade. And first it was established mainly with the European countries and 70 European countries, and that prepared the technical aspect of European Union in the future. Then it has moved and opened more to the global membership. So along with those developments and opening policy of countries, as you see, Japan, but also US and India almost the same time in the early 70s. And then when China decided to open up its country, it joined. And Russia, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, with all other former Soviet Union countries, they joined the WCO. And our major mission is to develop standards to support global trade. Well, all of you are well aware of a harmonized system of tariff classification, but also standardization and simplification of custom procedures, revised Kyoto Convention, which prepared the WTO's trade facilitation agreement. And more recently, it is also dealing with security, but also data standardization. At the previous panel, we heard about multimodal system. So now we are working together with ICAO, IMO, or rail associations to make sure that their data are compliant, or rather mapping their data requirement with customs data requirement, so that flow of data and commercial cargo are smooth within the supply chain. And those standard setting activities have been done always in partnership with trade and business. This is very important because customs mission is to support global trade. Therefore, business is an inevitable partner. And we work, of course, with international organizations such as United Nations, WTO, ICAO, IMO, etc. But also, private sector is very important. Custom brokers and freight forwarders, and we invite them to our global meeting to make sure that our standards will be implemented smoothly. We are amid the, very quickly changing landscape. As you know, in 1947, WTO, at that time it was called GATT, multilateral trading system was created. And it was gradual elimination of tariff. So WCO, with the tariff classification and valuation, we supported this movement. And at that time, US was the predominant economic force. So it was supported by US and other advanced economies. But then came the period of hyper-globalization from 1990s, and global value chain that has resulted in relocation of manufacturing sector abroad, and trade in semi-finished products have become so important. So the logistics sector have contributed, the major contributor to global value chain, and this has also facilitated technology transfer to emerging economies. And of course, first China and also India and other emerging economies joined the global trading system with a vast workforce and market. But from 2000s, there has been a slowization, so to speak, so slowing globalization, because a global value chain has completed and insourcing has started, and decline of GDP share, global GDP share of G7, 1970s, 70%, but nowadays around 40%. And of course, it was the emerging economies that have developed hugely. And especially in advanced countries, push back because of the income inequality. When G7 countries have a bigger share, when US was complaining about trade, it was easy to absorb that complaint by establishing more rules, more concessions to make sure that the WTO system remains functioning. But with the development of emerging economies, especially so-called state capitalism, it has become difficult for WTO system to absorb those complaints and coordination. So we see increasingly malfunction of WTO, no major trade rules except trade facilitation, which WCO contributed, and also no dispute settlement final system is now feasible. And then came the fragmentation, supply chain resilience or realignment has occurred, especially during the COVID-19 era, and supply chain disruption, and then concentration of manufacturing sector was not supposed to be very helpful for the global economy. So diversification has become the norm. And also technology-driven, decoupling or de-risking, so it's, the different way, and also reshoring, so outsourcing the manufacturing sector to reshore is very much pronounced nowadays, but also friend-shoring was discussed. So that is the part of fragmentation. And also economic security is now quite of a big issue. And in the past, industry policy was not viewed very in the free trade era, but nowadays they are reviewing their industry policy. First, China, Made in China 2025, and then it was launched in 2015. And then US has complained that this state capitalism includes forced technology transfer, huge subsidies, and market restriction. So US has reacted first by imposing tariff on US, but nowadays increasingly they also adopt huge subsidies, and also, as you observe, now turning to tariff policy, that is the current era. And also another big trading bloc, European Union, Green Deal's industry plan or CHIPS Act, then it is with huge subsidies for their industry. But nowadays, increasingly, they are looking at defense industry as well. So under this fragmented world, it seems that a hybrid of global trade, regional alliances, and bilateral deals are there. And many countries are trying to weather this uncertainty and unpredictability created by this world and the flexibility needed to navigate this divided world. Another important area is digital trade and e-commerce. The previous session talked about bulk trade, but non-bulk trade has become really a big force. And small parcels, for us, for customers, it is very difficult to assess their risks. So quite often we see the, development of e-commerce, but also development of smuggling activities. And also for the revenue collection, it poses a problem, especially, India is not doing that, but in some countries, they say de minimis, which is the, exemption of tariff for small consignment, but there is increasingly reviewing of those areas. And also, internet platform is providing e-commerce, and there is rethinking of their compliance requirement. Usually, as you know, importers declare their import, but many customers are now thinking of how about asking platform to get data, because in the end, risk management is based on data. And of course, use of technology. We heard a lot about AI, blockchain, drone, and therefore we are more looking at data and data harmonization, how to use AI technologies. And another important area is climate change or greening trade. And customer has been working in the area of multilateral environmental agreements, such as endangered species, ozone depleting substances, or waste. But now we have to move on, and our basic tool of tariff classification, for example, waste management, those consignment, are they waste or for the recycle? So that kind of debate is what we are trying to work with the UN environmental program to define and help them. And then carbon leakage, and EU is now next year implementing carbon border adjustment mechanism. So this is what we customs and the logistic industry has to think about. Now, very quickly, under these circumstances, what other regions are doing? Europe is, of course, EU integration, but EU has found out that they are still dependent on many areas outside. So what they are talking about is EU strategic autonomy, and therefore EU wants to diversify their economic partners, and they are keen to negotiate economic partnership agreements. And further integration in the fiscal area or security area is what they are trying. And even in the EU 27 countries, there are 27 custom administration. But EU is thinking of establishing EU-wide customs agency for more data centralization. Well, on the other hand, in Europe, Eurasia, so former Soviet Union, Russia is, of course, economic and military powerhouse. And they have also their economic integration policy like Eurasia Union. But as the last panel has referred to, for example, for Central Asia, connecting Europe and Asia, not only Europe and Asia, East and West, but also North and South, especially Indian Ocean, is what they are thinking of. So there are many economic alliances, regional alliances are in making. Africa and Middle East, India has a strong presence in Africa, especially Eastern Africa, and the growing population and the natural resources, it has a huge potential. But for the time being, the problem is that they export resources and import finished products. And they are thinking of how to promote internal trade and industry. And they see that the answer would be the African regional integration. There are already several sub-regional integration bodies, but they are trying to come up with African continental free trade area. And in doing so, what is important, most important, is the rules of origin, to define what is the made in Africa that one can provide, preferential tariff or even no tariff at all. So rules of origin is very important, and capacity building for customs and business in Africa in this respect has become a major issue. And the Middle East, well, there are several conflicts, of course, but especially Gulf countries, they are trying to diversify their economy from oil industry to technology, trade, finance, and tourism. When I visit those countries, it is very impressive that they are changing. And one area that we have to take care is a free trade zone, which has contributed to economic development, but also customs together with the business has to ensure compliance, especially intellectual property rights and other, prevent illegal activities is a challenge. Where America's regional trade agreements are very ripe in America, and North American Free Trade Area, 1992, now changed to US-Mexico-Canada Free Trade Agreement, and again, they are tightening rules of origin, and what is really how to define made in North America. It has become an important issue, and the trade practitioners' major concern. Of course, in the Atlantic, there is Mercosur, and in the Pacific, there are Pacific Alliance. Those South American coalition is there. And interestingly, they see authorized economic operators as a major part of getting more connectivity among themselves. And mutual recognition of AEO system is very much advanced in Latin America. When we look at US versus Central and Southern America and the Caribbean, they are big trade partners, of course, but two-way illicit trade is a headache. Drug, including fentanyl, US inbound, but US outbound firearms that cause a problem of security and stability of Latin America. And of course, immigration is a big issue. Therefore, US Customs Service has merged with immigration, and now it is US Customs and Border Protection. Finally, Asia Pacific, the most dynamic region. First, China, a state-led market economy, but now they are trying to change from labor-intensive to innovation-driven economy, which is the purpose of Made in China 2025, and they have achieved already a lot. And also from export-driven to consumption-driven, because overcapacity in China could be a huge problem for world economy. So this is what China, the big giant, is poses the world opportunity and challenges. And India is also rising power, strong IT service sector, together with infrastructure building. I'm also impressed by how quickly China is developing. And also a demographic dividend is there. And we see Make in India or TF Plus, Trade Facilitation Plus initiative to make sure that business friendliness is there. And so this is a very important issue for logistics. And Southeast Asia, ASEAN countries, they say these 10 countries want to have more ties outside. So they took initiative of concluding economic partnership agreements with major economies, of course, including India, and with the 6 surrounding big economies, what they did. So if we look at regional integration in Asia Pacific, it is really an interesting area. There are mega regional agreements because regional agreements or economic partnership, it could be bilateral, but more regional, a bigger region. And 10 ASEAN countries have, of course, a free trade area, but also Trans-Pacific Partnership or Regional Comprehensive Partnership Agreement. So there are many agreements are there. And what is important for customs and custom-related industry is, again, rules of origin. How to be seen as made in that region is very important. And especially in Asia Pacific, cumulative rules of origin is important because as there are several countries including in the region, country A produce, then country B add value, country C, and finally final product country D. And ABCD, they accumulate the value addition. And then they should be regarded as cumulative rules of origin. So it is a very complex and complicated issue that we are faced with. And so what we always recommend is that customs brokers, freight forwarders, could be advisory and consultant for, especially from small and medium enterprises. Finally, what is the future of trade professionals from our viewpoint? What we need is expertise, of course, rules of origin again, classification, etc., especially to help small and medium-sized enterprises. Because in the world, it's not only big corporations, but usually in country, more than 90%, whether it is advanced economy or emerging economies, more than 90% of corporations are small and medium-sized or even micro-industry. And advisory function to navigate complex regulations, especially rules of origin, and trade practitioners could become trade strategists. And for that, what we need is trust, quality control, so therefore capacity building for customers and business is very important, and of course integrity is the key. And collaboration, share experience and contribution to standard setting, not only to WCO, but any organization should be driven by the private sector. And technology and data, we have to watch how we can make use of that and how to relate with the public sector is important. And in the end, any organizations, the biggest asset is human resources. So how to ensure inclusive approach, or gender equality, diversity, and other opportunity to wider group of people. Currently, women in customs are totally 36%, and senior manager 23%, and heads 20%. So we can include more diversity in our organization to make us stronger. So in conclusion, let's enhance partnership, business to business, and customs business and other government agencies and international organizations to stay connected at borders. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Mikuriya, for that compelling address and your wonderful presentation that blends the global perspective with timeless wisdom. Your words remind us that while goods cross borders, it's trust, collaboration, and vision that truly moves the world. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a well-deserved round of applause once again. I now request our past chairman, Mr. A.V. Vijay Kumar, and our advisor, Mr. Mark Fernandez, to kindly please come on the stage to felicitate Dr. Mikuriya. Ladies and gentlemen, one round of applause once again. Thank you, Dr. Mikuriya. Thank you, AV sir. Thank you, Mark Fernandez sir.